Hello everybody, this is Moses from Wilona's Cave. I'm going to be doing a session 0 with the Avatar The Last Airbender themed RPG series. I'm going to be using this game called Avatar The Last Airbender Uncle Iroh's Dream. I've read a few books, and also I'm almost finished reading Legacy of the Fire Nation. This is where Uncle Iroh is writing his memoirs of his life to his nephew, Prince Zuko. So there's some type of like restaurant where he stayed at. So like the menu and other things like that of his life that he's told in his family tree. Another letter to him right there, or a letter to some. Yeah. Oh, this is a letter he saved from Zuko to him. But regardless, I'm going to try to be reading that so I get a little bit better on the history and the lore of his life, instead of just making stuff up too much. I'm also, like I mentioned, I'm going to be using Savage Worlds. He's a tough character to create, I'll admit, because I'm going to start this series with Uncle Iroh when he was 15 years old. So when I went to agility, I'm like, oh, Uncle Iroh is not that agile. I'll put like a D4 or D6. Well, I'm going to do at age 15, so he's going to be at least a D6, maybe even a D8. Don't know. Maybe I can read more about it on his fighting skills here. Also, so this game, how this game works, is it's a whole bunch of cards, a lot of them. Character cards, event cards, item cards, animals, in my opinion, of how a scene or the ending should have been, and I think a couple more, one or two more, I think. So let's say like a character card. So I'm going to use all these cards. This box is heavy. I think 540 cards or something like that. I'm going to use this to help me make the story. So instead of solely rolling on random tables, I'm going to roll or just pull cards. So if I come into a location, I'm not too sure what can happen. Let's say something happens, okay? Let's say we're using Uncle Iroh. Uncle Iroh he finally arrives in the Earth Kingdom by himself, like he's traveling. I think they mentioned that in the series, how he traveled by himself. He's traveling by himself, he's 15 years old, and he gets to the Earth Kingdom, and what happens when he arrives? Let's pull an event card. Now, if it doesn't make sense, I'm going to pull up to 3 cards and choose the best one. So let's see. Gets promoted. Well, then I could say that he saved somebody's life outside of the Earth Kingdom or Ba Sing Se or wherever. He saved somebody's life, and a captain saw him do that and asked him, how did you know how to save his life like that? And he's trying to hide, maybe he's trying to hide his Fire Nation lineage and says, well, this, that, and the other. And the captain says, would you like to join our army? I think the general would like to meet you, etc. And there we go. The story went off. Solo RPG. That's how it works. And now who knows what's going to happen after that. But I'm going to be working on his edges. So I'm really... and I might go into, I'm not going to show it, but I might go into the fantasy companion that Pinnacle or Savage Worlds created, but I'm not going to show any of that. And I'll be using as a guide the Pathfinder for Savage Worlds types here, so to help me out. So maybe I think he's a ranger. Sometimes I've read online that people think he could be a sorcerer, fire breathing out of his mouth, fire bending out of his mouth. Could be a fighter, and this is what the edges would be: is hindrances, impulsive, loyal, vengeful. Not really sounding like him, but still it gives me an idea of what type of die types to use: a D8 for agility, D6 for smarts, etc. And I can go from there, and what his skills would be: athletics, common knowledge, fighting, etc. Okay, it took a little while. I changed the name to Prince Iroh because he's young. There's a Iroh what he looked like. This is from the book though, right here. I did the best rendition I could of it, especially in a small square. You can see it the size of my thumb. It's a very tiny area. But regardless, so because he's a prince, because he's a firebender with race creation or heritage creation in Savage Worlds, they're gonna start with a D6 with smarts, any firebender. Arcane background, elementalist, firebending is free. Starts with a D4 because they're a firebender. So they start with a D4 right there, where it's an 8. So 6 and 8 is the only things that cost me in skill points. Because he's a prince, he has a battle of D6 right there. Then when you get to D12, it's a +1. But because of that, all these additions, he has a hindrance of 2 points. So we'll go through him really quick. You can see that he's quick. Sweep, when he can attack a group at a -2 penalty, but he can attack a whole group like he's done in the cartoons. Elemental absorption, that's included. Elemental synergy, reroll bending when near fire. While you have synergy, you get +2 on toughness. Let's see. His powers, elemental manipulation, elemental protection, bolt, burst, confusion. Some of this is from the new Fantasy Companion book that came out. His hindrances, he's cautious. He's an outsider because he's going to be traveling the world. And that he doesn't want people to know who he is. That's why should be wanted or secret. He's the prince and he ran away. So it's a -2 on persuasion on an outsider. But because he is charismatic, I put down a D6 for persuasion, but it's a -2. Let's see what else. Armor and interference, that's a major due to -4 spell casting and agility if you're wearing any type of armor, light, medium, or heavy. Shame and poverty. You know, he ran away, barely had any money, like in the cartoon with Zuko. Let's see. Parry is at 6. Toughness is at 5. You get that from there. Parry 2 + half fighting. Base toughness 2 + half vigor. Smarts, he gets whenever he gets up to D12, which will take a long time from now, it's a +1. There's his, so he's mostly D6s except his smart. So D6 is average in Savage Worlds. But yeah, that's pretty much 3 bennies. Even though he's 15 years old, but because he's a prince, he gets 3 bennies. If he's 12 to 15, you take a hindrance of young. And you know, there's things to that. You could look, if you have the book, you can look it up on what that will do. But yeah, pretty cool. So when you start gaining experience, starts leveling up and starts adding more stuff here. All right, everybody, let's have fun doing this. Happy gaming. Bye.